Hello, my name is Dr. Scott Young, and you can come to my website at drscottyoung.com and you can see the book called NESARA and the Mark of the Beast. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the debt structure and the way that they got off of the gold reserve, but some of the cooler things in history that happened. Coming right up. Okay, guys, you have to understand this gold standard has been around for a long time, but no one knew how to put it into place. Go back in time. I love history. I'm all about history. When you go back to 1860, Lincoln had a very fractured nation. The Republican Party was in a shambles. It was just starting really up from the Whig Party. They wanted to kill off slavery, but Lincoln was the big guy, and no one really liked him. He wasn't really well liked, but the people loved him. And so he gets into the government, and then boom, the Civil War starts, okay? In 1864, most of the men, because women didn't get to vote at the time, most of the men were on the battlefield. And so in 1864, that election went on for a very long time frame, and people are always saying, you know, what happened with that election? There was a ton of voter fraud, and I would say systemic election fraud, because they hated what he was trying to do. And you have to ask yourself this question: why does Lincoln die after he gets into office in 1865? He's already into his second term. And the Civil War's already done. Like, what's happening with John Wilkes Booth and the conspirators? And they die in a barn fire, and then a few conspirators, you know, pay for it with their life. You think, what's that all about? It's because there's a term called the greenback dollar. What Lincoln wanted to do is have the government make their own money. And the central bankers hated that because they wanted to make the money. That was opposite of what the Constitution talks about. The Constitution says that Congress shall set up the ability to make the money. Do you catch that? Now, we're going to flip over to another time frame. In 1960, fascinating. Boy, I tell you what, you have JFK. And there have been people that have talked about JFK and Lincoln because they're 100 years apart. But there's something that ties them together even more scarily. Did you know that Nixon, the Republican candidate, was a World War II veteran, but he was an actor after World War II. He was an actor. And he was brought in by Joseph P. Kennedy. That is JFK's dad, who was a part of the cabal. And he was brought in to be part of the, to be a politician that they could groom to have him in office. But they put him against JFK. And he was never going to win, and he knew it. They actually even did voter fraud, election-based fraud, in Chicago to turn the election by the mob. The mob did this whole setup. Now, when JFK gets into office, he gets into office because of the mob and because of his dad, and he turns his back upon all of them. So he and Bobby Kennedy are turning their back, and they even talk about it 6 months before. 6 months before he dies in November of 63, he actually has a fascinating speech to the UN. And he starts talking about these secret meetings, secret groups that are bad for America. He's talking about the Kabbalist meetings. Then he also says that he's going to put us on the silver standard for our money. And lastly, he says that he's going to break the CIA up into 1,000 pieces. Wait, excuse me. And he dies. He gets killed. And by the way, here's the more fascinating part. So the Warren Commission writes this stupid report, comes out around 65, 66, when I was born in 66, and no one believes the stupid magic bullet theory. So what the CIA and through the Warren Commission, they come up with this term called conspiracy theory for anyone who didn't believe the official version. Do you catch how nefarious this whole thing is? So we're going to bring this forward a little bit more in our next version. Thank you so much.